Hello, Virgo. I hope you're doing well. Um, so, okay, this person cannot help themselves. And I want you to understand just how far gone they actually are. Because from the outside, looking at the surface of how they present this situation to the world and possibly to you, it appears manageable. It appears like normal human enjoyment of another person's company, like simple appreciation, like nothing that requires particular examination or concern. It is not manageable. It has not been manageable for a while now. And the thing that started it, the thing that cracked the door open wide enough for everything else to walk through, was the way you make them laugh. Let me tell you about your humor. Because you probably do not think of it as a power. Probably think of it as just a thing you do, a natural part of how you move through conversation. Something that happens rather than something you deploy with any particular awareness of its effect. That is exactly what makes it lethal. Virgo humor is not the performed kind, not the kind that announces itself, not the setup punchline structure of someone who has prepared material and is delivering it to an audience they are trying to impress. It is something quieter and sharper and considerably more dangerous than that. It is observational in the most precise sense of the word. You notice things, the specific, absurd human things that are happening in any given situation that most people walk past without registering, the particular contradiction in what someone just said, the small irony sitting right there in the middle of an ordinary moment, the thing that is genuinely funny about a situation that is not obviously funny because you have to be paying a certain quality of attention to even see it, and you name it, without fanfare, without building to it, without the performative energy of someone who wants credit for being funny, just quietly, precisely, with the specific deadpan delivery of someone who is simply reporting what they see, and it lands every time. Not because you are trying, because you are actually paying attention. And people can feel the difference between humor that comes from performance and humor that comes from genuine, close, affectionate observation of the world. One makes you laugh, the other makes you feel seen while you are laughing. That is what you do. Here is what happens to this person when you do it. Something physical first. Before the laugh arrives, before the sound comes out, there is a moment, a fraction of a second, where what you said lands in them and something in their face shifts. Something involuntary, something that happens before they have decided to let it happen. A crinkle, a caught breath, the specific, helpless quality of someone who is about to lose the battle with their own composure. And then it breaks. And when it breaks, they are completely unguarded for exactly the duration of the laugh. And in that unguarded moment, something in them feels things they are not always prepared to feel. Because laughter does that. Real laughter, the involuntary kind, the kind produced by something genuinely landing rather than by social obligation, drops every wall simultaneously, cannot be performed and defended at the same time. And what they feel in those unguarded moments with you has been accumulating into something significantly larger than they planned for when this started. Let me tell you what they do after. After the laugh settles, After the moment passes and the conversation moves and the ordinary flow of being around you continues, after you have moved on to something else entirely and are not thinking about what you just said or how it landed or what it did to them, they think about it later, alone. They return to the specific thing you said, replay the specific way you said it, find themselves smiling without context, without a visible cause. Someone near them asks what they are smiling about, and they say nothing, or they say something vague. Because explaining it requires, describing you requires a level of admission about how often they think about you that they are not yet ready to make out loud. So they keep it, carry it around with them like something small and private and slightly embarrassing in how much pleasure it gives them. And it joins the collection. Because there is a collection, everything you have ever said that made them laugh, every specific observation, every dry aside, every moment where you saw something nobody else in the room saw and named it with the particular Virgo precision that made everyone else feel like they had been missing something obvious, they have kept all of it. Not deliberately, not as an organized archive, in the way that certain things simply do not fade the way other things do, that stay vivid and returnable when most impressions dissolve into a general blur. You stayed vivid. Does something about this feel familiar? Have you noticed this person seeking you out in group settings in a way that is slightly more deliberate than social randomness would produce? Finding themselves in your orbit consistently, angling conversations in directions that give you room to be yourself, laughing at things you say with a quality that is just slightly different from how they laugh at other things. Not louder, necessarily, more genuine, less managed. Tell me in the comments if you have felt this, if there is someone in your life whose laugh, when it is directed at something you said, has a different quality from their ordinary laugh, a more arrived quality, a more all the way there quality. Because what I am describing is recognizable once you know what you are looking for. And I suspect some of you have been looking at it without fully naming what it was. Now, let me tell you about the low-key part, because the humor was the door, but you are the room. And this is where it stops being light and becomes something real that I need you to actually hear. The humor got them in, made them feel good, made them want to be around you in the specific way that people want to be around someone who consistently makes them feel more alive than they felt before you walked in. That is not nothing. That is actually a significant thing, but it is not the whole of what they are addicted to. The whole of it is you. The humor was just the thing they could let themselves admit first. Because admitting you are funny about someone is safe, is light, does not require the same level of vulnerability as admitting the other things. The things that are harder to say out loud and that live in the part of the feeling that the word Lowkey is specifically designed to protect. Here is what lives in the Lowkey. They think about how you think, not just what you say, the way your mind works, the specific route your observations take from seeing something to naming it, the particular angle you approach things from that is recognizably, distinctly yours, the way your intelligence operates, not as a performance of intelligence, but as a genuine, curious, constantly noticing quality of engagement with everything around you. They find your mind fascinating in the specific way that certain minds fascinate people who are themselves sharp enough to recognize the quality of what they are encountering, who can feel the difference between someone who thinks and someone who thinks in an interesting way. Your way is interesting to them specifically, in the particular way that means they are not done with it, that every conversation leaves them with more questions than answers about you, that you remain genuinely curious to them in a way that most people stop being after a certain amount of exposure. You get more interesting the more they know you. That is rare. That is genuinely, specifically rare. And they know it. Let me tell you what else lives in the Lowkey. The way you are when you are not performing anything. Because at some point they caught a glimpse, a moment where the social version of you relaxed enough that something underneath it became briefly visible, where you were just you, without the competent, together, I have it managed exterior that you lead with in most contexts. Just the actual person, thinking something real, feeling something real, present in the specific, unguarded way that only happens when someone has accidentally made you feel safe enough to stop performing. They saw that version, and it did something to them they were not prepared for. Because the underneath version of you is not what people expect. They expect the competence, the precision, the together quality. What they do not expect is the warmth underneath the precision, the genuine tenderness that coexists with the sharp edges, the way you actually care about things and people in a way that your composed exterior does not always advertise. They saw the warmth, and they have not been the same about you since. I want to talk about what they tell people, because the addiction has a social expression that has been noticed by the people around them. The way your name comes up, not always directly, sometimes sideways, sometimes through the specific route of talking about something you said or something that happened that involves you or something that reminded them of you without them realizing until the words are out that they have mentioned you. Again, the people around them have noticed, have exchanged the look that people exchange when someone keeps circling back to the same subject without being aware of how often they are circling. Have maybe said something gently, with the specific warmth of people who recognize what they are watching and find it both endearing and slightly obvious from where they are standing. The addiction is not subtle. It is just subtle to you because you are not watching it from the outside. You are the subject of it. And subjects are always the last to see clearly what everyone else can see perfectly. Now, I need to tell you something about yourself that I think you genuinely do not know. You are funny in the way that only deeply feeling people can be funny. That is the secret underneath all of it. The reason the humor lands the way it does. The reason it stays. The reason it functions as more than just entertainment and becomes instead a kind of intimacy. Because your humor comes from observation, and your observation comes from caring, from actually paying attention to the world and the people in it with a genuine, interested, this matters to me quality that most people have dialed down to the point of near extinction in order to get through their daily lives without being overwhelmed by the sheer volume of things that are happening. You have not dialed it down. you are still paying attention to everything. And that attention, when it finds something absurd or contradictory or unexpectedly human in the material of ordinary life, produces the humor. But the same attention that produces the humor is also what makes you devastating in other ways. The way you remember things people told you months ago and ask about them when you see the person again. The way you notice when something is wrong with someone before they have said anything about it. The way you show up specifically rather than generally. The way your care has a precision to it that makes people feel known rather than simply liked. All of that comes from the same place. The attention, the paying of it, the refusal to be present in a surface way when depth is available. And this person is addicted to all of it. The humor was just the introduction. The attention is the substance. Here is what I want you to actually do with this reading. Stop minimizing what you do to people, not in a grandiose, self important way, in the specific, honest, accurate way of someone who has been systematically underselling their own effect on the people around them for longer than is reasonable. You make people feel something. Not everyone, not always. But when it happens, it is real and it is specific and it is not easily replicated by someone else trying to do what you do. Because what you do is not a technique, it is not a set of behaviors that can be learned and reproduced. It is the natural output of who you actually are when you are actually present. And who you actually are is somebody worth being addicted to. Not in the unhealthy sense, in the sense that certain people, certain presences, certain specific combinations of qualities that have no business all existing in the same person, but somehow do, are genuinely extraordinary to be around. You are one of those combinations. And this person figured it out, probably before you would have given them credit for figuring anything out. People who make other people feel good tend to underestimate how good they make people feel. Stop underestimating. One last thing. The Lowkey is not going to stay low-key indefinitely. Something that has been accumulating the way this has been accumulating has a natural momentum toward expression, toward the moment when the thing that has been kept in the low-key space becomes too large for that space and needs somewhere bigger to live. That moment is approaching, not as a prediction with a timestamp, as the natural consequence of what I have been describing, of someone who has been collecting your humor and your observations and your warmth and your specific quality of presence and carrying it around in a private space that keeps needing to expand to contain it. Eventually, the space is not big enough, and the thing inside it needs to go somewhere. When it does, and it will, I want you to receive it without immediately doing the thing you do, without immediately deflecting with humor, without making a joke to release the pressure of being seen that directly, without turning the moment into something lighter because lighter is safer. Let it be heavy. Let it mean what it means. Let someone be addicted to you without immediately giving them a reason to laugh instead of a reason to stay. Because you deserve someone who stays, not just someone who keeps coming back for the next thing you say, someone who comes back for you, all of you, the funny parts and the serious parts and the parts that are not performing anything at all. This person is already there. They just need you to let them say so. Tell me in the comments who came to mind when you read this. Not their name, just whether you felt it land somewhere specific. Whether there is a face that appeared in the first second before you decided whether to let it appear. That first second is always the truth. Until next time, Virgo, someone is out here laughing at everything you say and feeling things they cannot explain and telling people your name too often and thinking about you in the in between moments of their ordinary day and calling it low key like anyone is fooled. Like you cannot tell the difference between someone who finds you funny and someone who is gone for you completely and using funny as the only word they are currently brave enough to say out loud. You can tell you always could. You were just waiting for permission to believe it. Consider this your permission